Hello, everybody. Welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World. And we got a very special edition of Prime Sports World as it is my father's birthday today. So shout out to Papa Huffman. Papa Huffman, as John and Julius likes to call him. Thank you very much for joining us here at Prime Sports World. And a very happy birthday to my dad. Wouldn't be here without him. So I appreciate, love you. I'll talk to you later on the phone as I do live like 2,100 miles away from my dad. But happy birthday, Dad. Hope you have a great day, and we'll chat on the phone a little bit later. Got you a little bit of a shout out on our newscast a little bit earlier. But yeah, if you like what we're doing here at Prime Sports World, please like, share, subscribe to the podcast. My name is David On Point Huffman. We're on today's episode of the show. We're going to be giving you our mock draft. Happy birthday, Dad edition, as we are now just a week and a half or so away from that NFL draft. Feels like we've been waiting for that to get here for a while now. But yeah, this is going to be about a 4.0. We will have another mock draft next week as we get closer and closer to the draft. We also will have a ton of content this week as we get closer and closer to the showcase of the Immortals, WrestleMania coming up this weekend. If you did not hear the news, I will be at night number 2. But tomorrow, we're going to have a UFL recap show. We will recap the week that was the WWE on Thursday, and then we will give you our full preview of WrestleMania on Friday. So keep an eye out for all that content. Like, share, subscribe so you can stay up to date with everything we're doing here at Prime Sports World. Without further ado, let's talk about my mock draft for Happy Birthday Dad edition. And shout out to my dad still. Happy birthday. And then the worst kept secret in all of football, the Las Vegas Raiders are on the clock, and they have the first overall pick. I try to make these mocks different every single time, put a different player, different little spots. But I just can't when it comes to the Las Vegas Raiders. They're going to take Fernando Mendoza. He's going to be the first quarterback off the board here. He's the best quarterback prospect in this particular draft class. I don't think it's particularly all that close. Unfortunately, I don't think he's a generational prospect, but he's good enough to be a first overall pick, and the Raiders have a major need at quarterback. I know they brought in Kirk Cousins, but I still think that they're going to need a quarterback. He may not even play it for a hot minute. As I think they want Matt Ryan to get a bulk of the starts there at the beginning of the season at least. The Raiders do have a lot of needs besides quarterback, quarterback, wide receiver, offensive tackle, and defensive line. But they can address those other needs later in the draft. From there, I think when the actual draft actually starts, we got the New York Football Jets on the clock at number 2, and I have them taking the best defensive player available, although they do have another team that has some major needs, linebacker, wide receiver, edge, and corner, and they will be addressing edge with their first overall pick. They're taking Arvell Reese, the edge rusher out of Ohio State, 6'4", 243 pounds, lead athlete for the position, is probably the best defensive player in this draft class, and addresses a major need for the Jets. They traded away Jermaine Johnson during this offseason, bring in the defensive tackle out of Texas, which I think is an upgrade for them. I actually really like that trade for the Jets. Oh, hey, man, yeah. Bro, the Raiders, best team ever. Yeah, let's go. I'm not a Raiders fan. I'm obviously a Chicago Bears fan. I'm from Chicago. But I did have a friend back home that used to be obsessed with the Raiders. And we'll see how they end up shaking out. But they appreciate the shout out, man. Or Marsha. Is that Marsha? I don't whichever it is. Las Vegas Raiders. Keep checking us out. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast as we go through this offseason. But yeah, Jets, Arvell Reese, Ohio State, edge rusher going to the Jets. To the Arizona Cardinals, who have a ton of needs on the Arizona Cardinals side, as this team is not just one piece away from being extremely competitive. Obviously, offensive tackle, edge, quarterback, linebacker as their major needs. Since there is not a quarterback to take here, it'll probably be Jacoby Brissett taking the majority of the starts for the Arizona Cardinals. In this mock draft, I have them just in the safety position. I have them taking Caleb Downs, the safety out of Ohio State, as another Ohio State player goes in this particular area of my mock draft. He's a 6 foot, 205 pounds, twitchy safety. He has a high floor and ceiling. Think of him as a Kyle Hamilton type. This guy should be a day one plug and play starter in that secondary for the Arizona Cardinals. Secondary that could definitely use some help there for the Arizona Cardinals. Caleb Downs goes to the Cardinals. And then I got the Tennessee Titans on the clock, or do I? Although, have you noticed, I've updated it to the new logo for the Tennessee Titans. So all you Tennessee Titans fans out there, look at this new logo. It is cool. It is really nice. 4th overall pick, but unfortunately, this is where I have my first trade of this particular mock draft, and this is why I have the Commanders coming up. They're going to give up number 7 overall, and they're going to give up a second-round pick next year. Obviously, they don't have a second-round pick in this upcoming draft, or in this draft, so they will have to give up one next year. But they're coming up for one reason only. They're taking Jeremiah Love, the running back out of Notre Dame, and they're hoping in him and Jaden Daniels can be the backfield of their future. They have other needs, like going over to Washington Commanders. Their other needs is running back, edge, safety, and wide receiver. Jeremiah Love is just too good to pass up here, and he takes pressure off of Jaden Daniels. He's perfect, and we saw Bill Bukowski-Marin kind of wear down towards the end of the season last year. They don't really have anybody else on the roster. They let Rodriguez go, and they also let the other running back go. So Jeremiah Love, moving up to get him, 6 foot, 214 pounds. He's a generational type running back. Think of him as a Saquon Barkley type. Think of him as a Bijan Robinson type. He should be a day one Pro Bowler for this football team and this franchise. From there, we're going to swing into the New York Football Giants. Christian Simpson's New York Football Giants. I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Christian. His great uncle passed away over the weekend. So our thoughts and prayers are with you, Christian. Love you, buddy. And if you want to go check out his content at any time, he's on the dailyblitz.blog. Go over there and give Christian Simpson a shout out. You can probably use it right about now. So appreciate you, Christian. Love you, buddy. But New York Football Giants, they're going to dent the trenches. Big Frank the Tank, or Big Frank, I think is what me and Izzy decided we're going to call him. The offensive tackle out of Miami. Evan Neal has been a pretty big bust there on the left side or right side. So you get him along with Andrew Thomas, if he can stay healthy. That's a pretty solid combination there at the tackle position, and they have to keep Jackson Dart upright if he's going to be the franchise, if he's going to be the guy. I mean, they could go a bunch of different ways in this particular draft. You look at their major team needs. We got linebacker, safety, wide receiver, and running back. But I'm going to have them take the best offensive tackle in this draft. Big Frank going to the New York Football Giants. Milwaukee, is how you pronounce that last name, I do believe. From there, we have the Cleveland Browns on the clock, and they also could go a plethora of different directions when it comes to this particular mock draft. They have needs at wide receiver, offensive tackle, corner, and then edge as their major needs. But I have them addressing their biggest need. I have them keeping an Ohio State kid in their state. Carnell Tate, wide receiver, comes the first one off the board here. OSU Browns going to the wide receiver, going to the Cleveland Browns. Just looking at some of his measurables, he's a day one, ready to start, plug and play, wide receiver 1, 6'3", 195 pounds, crazy athleticism. He just was an absolute man-child in college and should translate directly into the National Football League. So Carnell Tate stays in the state of Ohio, goes from Ohio State, the Columbus, Ohio, to Cleveland, Ohio. And now pick number 7. This is now the Tennessee Titans on the clock as they made the trade with the Commanders to move back and pick up some draft capital so they could surround Cam Ward with some more weapons. In previous mock drafts, I have had them go various different directions. I think I've had them go offensive line and defensive line. But in this particular mock draft, it's like to do things slightly different here. I'm going to have them take Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver out of Arizona State. As Matt James would like to tell you, Was it Pitchforks up? Yeah, for Jordan Tyson, Arizona State wide receiver for the Titans. They do have other needs in this particular draft that they could look to address, including running back, edge, linebacker, and wide receiver. But I have them going to go wide receiver. I think he's a real ceiling riser. And I think they got to get some weapons around Cam Ward. They lost Shiga Kongwu. I mean, this could be a Kenyon Sadiq landing spot as well if you want to kind of reach for him. But I have them go Jordan Tyson, 6'2", 200 pounds. He has ability to be a wide receiver one. They don't really have that. I know they have Calvin Ridley still on the roster, but I mean, he's been wildly inconsistent throughout his NFL career. So I think they're going to go a different direction in this particular mock draft, and I have them going a different way as well. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate the there on, I don't know how you're watching us, but on Facebook there, Steve, we appreciate the shout out there. Liking our podcast. If you like our content, please like, share, and subscribe to the show. From there, we got the New Orleans Saints on the clock and going down to the Bayou. We're going to get Tyler Shook some more players to play around with him. But because of the way this mock draft kind of shook out, Trey Hendrickson hasn't been in that building for about 3 years now. They've been looking for another edge rusher to kind of be Cameron Jordan as he still is in the National League and still playing there. They get a steal here at number 8. David Bailey falls all the way to them at number 8. And this could be a realistic outcome there. Saints wide receiver, edge, corner, safety as their number 1 needs here for them. But David Bailey is a absolute freak of nature coming out of Texas Tech, 6'3", 250 pounds. He doesn't necessarily have the ideal size and length, but he's got crazy explosiveness and crazy twitch. He's going to be an absolute pass rush machine in the next level. Maybe he's not a 3-down player, but he should be coming in on pass rush situations and get you those game-changing sacks as he is a senior, 22 years old, will be 23, I think, when the season finally starts. But David Bailey is an absolute home run pick here at number 8 for the New Orleans Saints. From there, we got the Kansas City Chiefs on the clock, and they do have some major needs as they will probably be without Patty Mahomes, at least for the start of next season as he recovers from that ACL tear. But they need a corner as they let both of their major corners, one in the free agency, one in trades, walk out the door. Edge, wide receiver, and then offensive tackle is Jawan Taylor is no longer on this particular roster anymore. But I have them going corner. I have them addressing their most number 1 pressing need. You let both your corners walk out the door. They address that by getting Mansour Delaney, one of the best corners in this particular cycle, at number 9 for the Kansas City Chiefs. 6 feet, 190 pounds, was banged up last season, so didn't play much. But he is an absolute shutdown corner, and he comes from one of the best cornerback universities in LSU. I think Patrick Peterson coming out of that. So. Moving on from there, pick number 10 is where we have the Cincinnati Bengals on the clock, and they get an absolute steal, in my opinion, with the way this mock draft is shooking out. They do have some big-time needs, safety, corner, edge, linebacker. Like every single season that we talk about the Cincinnati Bengals, defense is their number 1 need. We're going to go with linebacker as Sonny Styles is going to be their guy. Many people have him as a fringe top 5 pick. Could potentially go to the New York Football Giants at number 5, but I have him falling all the way to number 10. 6'5", 243, excellent attacking linebacker. Had a crazy combine where he just put on an absolute show as one of the best combine performances we've seen in the modern era. Sonny Styles is going to be an absolute game changer for the Cincinnati Bengals in a defense that needs game changers. From there, we have the Miami Dolphins on the clock, and they have 2 first-round picks because they traded Jalen Waddle away in a couple of weeks ago to the Denver Broncos. Their major needs are obviously wide receiver, corner, offensive tackle, and then edge. There are a lot of different ways the Miami Dolphins could go here with the 11th overall pick, but I had them making kind of an interesting decision here. They're taking Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end out of Oregon, who also had an insane combine, 6'3", 245 pounds. He's the ideal modern tight end. You can load him out wide there with 2 first-round picks. I think you take the upside with Sadiq and then maybe you go a little bit safer with the second of your 2 first-round picks. Can make a major impact in both receiving and blocking. Kenyon Sadiq, I think, is an interesting move here by the Miami Dolphins, and I could be an absolute ceiling raiser, as we don't know how much longer Dale Waller's going to play, as he's already retired once. So there, any moment we could see him, moving on from the National Football League and do whatever else Darren Waller wants to do with his life post NFL career. From there, we got the Dallas Cowboys on the clock. We got the Dallas Cowboys on the clock. We got 11 people watching us. 8 people on YouTube. We appreciate the support over there on YouTube from Prime Sports World. If you like what we're doing here, like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. Dallas Cowboys on the clock. Their major needs here are going to be corner, edge, linebacker, and safety. And, they let one incredible edge rusher out the door in Micah Parsons. Well, they're going to find a guy who's fallen in this particular mock draft to number 12, Ruben Bain Jr., the big defensive end from Miami. And I know there are some concerns about his arm length. His production and play strength outweighs those concerns. He's 6'3", 270 pounds. The guy just is an absolute game changer, game wrecker. To get him at 12 for the Dallas Cowboys, I think is an absolute home run, slam dunk move. We could see a scenario where teams are like chopping at the bit, making phone calls with the Miami Dolphins. If he was to fall this far, I could see a team trying to trade back up into the first round, trading up in the first round to try to get Ruben Bain, as long as the price tag isn't too high. So, however that ends up working out for whoever. From there, we have the Los Angeles Rams on the clock, who addressed their major need in free agency as they stole both of the corners from the Kansas City Chiefs. They signed Watson, and then they traded for that's not coming to me right now. But you know what I'm talking about. Then they traded for the corner. I'm going to have to look that up. That's going to really piss me off. Trent McDuffie. Yeah, Trent McDuffie. They traded for Trent McDuffie, so they got both of the starting corners from the Kansas City Chiefs. According to NFL Mock Draft Database.com, their major needs are wide receiver, offensive tackle, linebacker, and tight end. And they basically have been looking for an offensive tackle ever since Andrew Whitworth retired. It feels like a year ago, but it's probably been 5 now. I have them addressing that need. That major need. They're going to go to the offensive tackle, and they're going to go to SEC country, and they're going to grab Monroe Freeland out of Georgia, who's a mammoth human being, 6'7", 315 pounds. He's got the ideal size for the position, as he is pretty inexperienced. So he's a true junior entrant, good mover, best suited for an inside zone heavy scheme. But yeah, I think he was a big-time riser because he wasn't even a starter at Georgia last year. He gets into the starting lineup there and just kind of improves every single week. Monroe Freeling will be a Los Angeles Ram if this mock draft holds true, as they address their offensive line. To the Baltimore Ravens at number 14. Their major team needs are as follows. Interior offensive linemen, as they lost their starting center. Wide receiver has always kind of been a need for the Baltimore Ravens. Offensive tackle, and then tight end, as Mark Andrews getting a little long there in the tooth, and Isaiah Likely is now a Giant. But I have the Ravens addressing their interior offense. Actually, I have the Ravens addressing wide receiver, as Makai Lemon actually falls to them at number 14. In my last mock draft, I had them taking the interior offensive lineman out of Penn State. But Makai Lemon goes to from USC. The Trojan goes to the Baltimore Ravens. 5'11", 195 pounds. I think he's a really good complement to what they already have there in Zay Flowers. He absolutely could be an absolute game changer for Lamar Jackson and this offense if he pans out. From there, we got pick number 15 on the clock, and that's where we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A little bit of a disappointing end to their season after, at one point in the season last year, it kind of looked like Baker Mayfield was going to be an MVP candidate, and played pretty well. But, he fizzled out on the stretch there a little bit, started having some nagging injuries. The season didn't really pan out the way that anybody really predicted for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Their major team needs is edge, linebacker, tight end, and then corner. I have them addressing the cornerback position. The best corner still on the board here is Jermon McCoy, the kid out of Tennessee. Will be 21 when the season starts next year. 6 foot, 193 pounds. He did not play last season at all, but he has crazy shutdown potential in press man coverage. You're going to have to go all the way back to his 2024 tape to watch anything on him because he did not play last season, I think coming off an ACL tear. But the dude is just an absolute – he was a number one recruit when he came out of high school, should be a very valuable piece for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers as they try to rebuild that secondary after losing some of their pieces in the offseason. From there, we got the New York Football Jets on the clock, or do we? As I actually have the second of two picks trades in this particular draft. I have my Chicago Bears calling up the New York Jets, and they're going to give them their first-round pick this year. They're going to third-round pick this year and a second-round pick next year to move up to 16 and take – they have the number going up, just looking at some of their needs for Chicago as they've traded up to make this pick. Defensive line, edge, safety, wide receiver, and they've kind of been looking for that other edge rusher to put on the other side of Montez Sweat. This is where they're going to address that. I have Akeem Mesidor, 6'3", 280 pounds. He's going to be 26 by the time the season starts, but he has absolute pass rush traits, and we need a guy who's going to be ready to win now. Even though he's more built for a 3-4, but I think it'll be okay. This is a win now move for the Chicago Bears. There's no real ceiling raiser. If you want to get really aggressive for Chicago, I just felt like the price tag would be too rich to try to move up all the way to 12 with the Dallas Cowboys and try to get Ruben Bain, who would be an absolute home run trade. I think we'll find a way to make this same trade package work, but I just don't think that's going to be the case. But yeah, this guy is an absolute freak of nature, 6'3", 280 pounds, should be a win-now player, had an excellent 2025 for the Miami Hurricanes as they ended up losing in the Natty. But this is a good value trade for both the teams. You're the Jets, you get extra draft capital because they're not a team that's really one move away from being a Super Bowl contender, but you get extra draft capital, and the Bears get what they've been looking for because they didn't really address it in free agency. Kem Mesidor ends up becoming a Chicago Bear with the 16th overall pick in this particular draft. And we are officially halfway through this particular mock draft. If you like what we're doing here at Prime Sports World, please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. And let me know what you want your team to do when it comes to the NFL draft, as we are just about 10 days away from that becoming a reality. From there, we got the other NFC North team, as all the NFC North teams are going to be picking past this point. We have the Detroit Lions on the clock, and they're going to draft an offensive tackle. I got them going Spencer Fano. It's not their number one need, but it's, edge, offensive tackle, edge, defensive line, interior offensive line. I also think the Bears needed to jump the Detroit Lions to make sure that they didn't get this, just in case the Lions decided to take an edge. With this particular pick, but I have them going offensive line. I have them thinking Spencer Fano, the offensive tackle out of Utah, 6'6", 308 pounds, somewhat undersized for the position, but the dude is just an absolute impressive athlete with explosiveness, fluidity, and balance. Grips meet the competitive, make him a strong fit for an outside zone scheme. He should be a day one plug-and-play starter for the Detroit Lions. He will probably be about 21 when the season finally starts in August. From there, we got another NFC North team on the clock. We got the Minnesota Vikings as they did address their quarterback scenario, bringing in Kyler Murray to at least push J.J. McCarthy. But we all know their longtime Harrison Smith is no longer in the building, but they have other needs: safety, defensive line, corner, and then running back. It's Aaron Jones getting a little bit long there in the tooth. But I have them dressed as safety. You place one white safety retires for the Minnesota Vikings. So let's bring in another white safety. Dylan Thielman, the safety out of Oregon, 6 foot, 205 pounds, had a insane combine performance in Indianapolis. Just put up crazy numbers. Versatile safety who excels in coverage and downhill run support. He's basically going to be Harrison Smith 2.0. It should be an absolute game changer for the Minnesota Vikings as they move on from the Harrison Smith era for their football team. Carolina Panthers on the clock in the last mock draft. I had them taking Kenyon Sadiq here from the University of Oregon. He's unfortunately no longer on my board as Mick Joff is shooken up way different. But tight end, wide receiver, offensive tackle, and then corner are their number one needs for the Carolina Panthers. And I have them addressing wide receiver. That means I have 4 wide receivers going in the top 20 picks here. But I have them taking Amari Cooper, the wide receiver out of Indiana, who basically really put himself on the map there this season. 6 foot, 204 pounds, and should be an excellent compliment to Tedero McMillan as he looks to build on his Offensive Rookie of the Year season last season. But yeah, the guy has strong hands. He's got a dense frame. He probably rejects more as a wide receiver too, but I think you roll the dice if you're Carolina Panthers. If you really want Bryce Young to be the guy, this kind of has to be a make or break season for Bryce Young. From there, we got the Dallas Cowboys back on the clock as they got 2 first-round picks in this upcoming draft. This one is a result of the Micah Parsons trade. And with this second overall pick, I have them taking C.J. Allen, the linebacker out of Georgia, as they look to address that need. C.J. Allen, Georgia, 6'1", 235 pounds, physical, reliable middle linebacker. He's just an absolute ceiling raiser when it comes to your defense. And you're hoping maybe you can get a little bit of some edge rushing out of him. Maybe not. But he should be an absolute plug-and-play day-one starter for the Dallas Cowboys, as linebacker is a major need for this franchise as we move forward for the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to move a little bit faster here through the last couple picks here. Pick number 21 is the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are now on the clock, and this is where I have my second quarterback going. I'm going to have them get the heir apparent for Aaron Rodgers. I don't think it's completely clear what Aaron Rodgers is going to be doing this season. I know he's probably going to make a decision before the draft, so these things could ultimately change. And, maybe Will Howard is the guy. Maybe he's going to have an opportunity. But I think if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you addressed a lot of your major needs in free agency and with the trade of Michael Pittman Jr., I think you take a roll of the dice. I mean, Ty Simpson ends up going to Pittsburgh. They do have other needs, obviously. I mean, but Pittsburgh quarterback has been a major need, as you've never really set up an heir apparent plan. Ever since Ben Roethlisberger has been there, there's been nobody that's been ready to step in. I know they have offensive tackle needs, but I don't think there's anybody to really take here. Offensive tackle, wide receiver, interior offensive line, and then corner, and then quarterback obviously is a major need. And I think Ty Simpson, give him a season, especially if Aaron Rodgers stays, give him a season to sit behind Aaron Rodgers, kind of learn how to be a pro. And if you're Dan Orlovsky, he's the best quarterback in this draft. So shout out to Dan Orlovsky. He's one of the better media guys when it comes to the National Football League. So I know he got clowned for that take on Pat McAfee's show, but he's really good on TV. So Steelers address a major need. They go quarterback. They plan it for the future, unlike what they did a few years ago when Ben Roethlisberger finally retired. From there, we got the Los Angeles Chargers on the clock, and they have some major needs, and one of them was very obvious if you watched any of that playoff game for Chargers when they went up against the New England Patriots. But they do have a needed edge as, Khalil Mack's getting long in the tooth there, interior offensive line, defensive line, and offensive tackle. Either of those two guys can really have been able to stay healthy at all so far in their pro career. But I have them addressing offensive line, interior offensive line. I have them taking Ione. I'm just going to try. I'm not going to try. Ola Ione. I'm not sure how to pronounce that first name. Ola Ione, the interior offensive lineman from Penn State. He should be a plug and play day one starter for the Los Angeles Chargers, as he's Yeah, 6'4", 328 pounds. He really broke out. 87 pass blocking grade as according to PFF, 12th among all guards in this particular draft class. He was just an absolute mammoth human being when it comes to, and he should be an absolute game changer for Justin Herbert as they look to rebuild that offensive line. And hopefully their two tackles that missed most of last season will be healthy for an entire campaign. And we can really see what these Chargers team is really capable of. Those guys can stay healthy and they can rebuild that offensive line. From there, we have the Philadelphia Eagles on the clock, as a lot of news going on about Philadelphia, but they do have some major needs. Offensive tackle, edge, wide receiver, and then tight end. I have the Philadelphia Eagles addressing their offensive tackle position. I have them taking the offensive tackle out of Clemson, Blake Miller, 6'6", 315 pounds, another colossal human being. He has the frame, overall skill to make him a starting caliber offensive tackle, something that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to need him to be from day one. From their pick number 24, this is the Cleveland Browns, as they are on the clock as opposed of the Hunter trade with the Jacksonville Jaguars last offseason. Sorry, hold on. But yeah, I mean, Cleveland has a lot of needs. We kind of talked about it a little bit here earlier. I mean, they really need to rebuild their entire offensive line because they came into this offseason with not a single offensive line on their roster. And I have them taking one of the younger players in this class, Caden Proctor, 6'7", 366 pounds, another mammoth human being, 86.1 grade by PFF, a junior. He's 20 years old right now. Will be 21 by the time the season starts. Massive, powerful offensive lineman prospect. Good coordination, movement ability for a guy that's that big of a human being. Arm length, not exactly what you like for a tackle, but he could potentially be a guard at the next level. But 6'7", 366 pounds. They don't build those kind of human beings very often, and he should be a day one plug and play starter, hopefully for the future as they try to build around Sador Sanders. They try to build around their wide receiver there, the kid from Ohio State, as they try to build around the wide receiver, Carnell Tate, that I already put on them from earlier in this particular mock draft. From that, we have the Chicago Bears on the clock. But if you remember earlier from my mock draft, the Bears made a phone call with the New York Football Jets, and they moved up. And they moved up with the New York Jets. Yeah, the New York Jets. And now the Jets are on the clock with this particular pick. Hold on, sorry. I can't find this guy. Anyway, hold on. I'm eventually going to have them go edge, but I cannot find the player on this list that I would have them take. Oh, yeah. Keldrick Falk ends up becoming a New York Jet, 6'6", 285 pounds. He's not a pure pass rusher. So, he's kind of a downgrade of what they would have gotten if they had just stayed at 16, moving all the way down to 25. But I mean, he's got the ideal fit for multiple fronts and odd fronts. He excels at holding the line of scrimmage. It could be generate pressure through power. It could be an excellent run stopper at the next level. And this is a guy that, PFF has him ranked number 22nd overall best prospect in this particular draft class. Get him at 25. That's pretty good value for the New York Jets. And then staying in the AFC East, we have the Buffalo Bills on the clock, who did address their wide receiver need with the trade for DJ Moore. But they do have some other needs, edge, wide receiver, linebacker, and defensive line. I am going to have them get another safety. I think they need a safety as well. And I think this guy is too good on my board to kind of pass up here. I got them taking the Emmanuel McNeil Warren. The safety out of Toledo. Mac represent, baby. 6'2", 202 pounds. big explosive safety, a knack for creating turnovers. They've been looking for safety help ever since their two main safeties left 2 years ago. And PFF had to give him a season grade last season of 91.1. And maybe Toledo is going to become like mini quarter defensive back as Adrian Mitchell has been an absolute game changer for the Philadelphia Eagles at the cornerback position. This is another guy who's a pretty good value, getting a 21st rated prospect at 26. So kudos I like that pick a lot for the Buffalo Bills, as nobody circles the wagons quite like the Buffalo Bills. From there, we have the San Francisco 49ers on the clock as they were riddled by injuries down the stretch of last season. And they're going to try to, they still had a pretty solid season, so hopefully they stay healthy. George Kittle probably will miss the majority of next season with that Achilles tear. But they do have some major needs, including offensive tackle, edge, wide receiver, and defensive line. Let's not forget Trent Williams is getting a little bit long in the tooth there. But I do have them going edge. We don't know what Nick Bosa is going to look like when he comes back, but this team really struggled to generate any kind of real pressure after the quarterback he went down. We saw, I think they only had, I think the quote is that the Seattle Seahawks in the two games that they played against the San Francisco 49ers against the San Francisco 49ers, they had more sacks in those two games than San Francisco did the entire season. And that needs to change because their corners are not great. So they're going to need to have a dominant edge rushing presence. TJ Parker, the edge out of Clemson, 6'3", 260 pounds. He's a really well-rounded edge defender. He's like one of those jack of all trades, but not really great at any one thing, which should be an absolute rotational piece with starting caliber potential. If he can develop a little more strength or explosiveness at the edge position for the San Francisco 49ers. And as I am in San Francisco now, I do want them to play well. And I do think this would be a good step towards making the right decision for their particular franchise. From there, we got the Houston Texans on the clock. They have some major needs when it comes to their needs, as you saw in the playoff game. But they do have defensive line to corner with Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, offensive tackle, interior offensive line, and linebacker. But I'm going to have them go. There isn't really an offensive tackle to take at this point at 28, as they all kind of been taken off the board early and often in this draft, which is why things usually shake out in most NFL drafts. But I have them going. I have to look this up. Hold on a second. I have them going defensive line. I have them going back to Ohio State, where they're going to get Caden McDonald, the defensive lineman out of Ohio State, 6'3", 326 pounds, 86 season grade out of PFF, fueled by elite run defense. He's a little bit undersized, I think, to play like defensive tackle for like a nose tackle. But he has a really nice run defense. He should be a plug and play starter for the Houston Texans as they try to build on it's still a promising season, but kind of went down in a fizzle in that game against the New England Patriots. And they weren't particularly good in that game against the Pittsburgh Steelers either, as they won that game, but the offense just didn't really look good in that game. From there, we have the Kansas City Chiefs back on the clock as they got this pick from the Los Angeles Rams. And they still have the same needs as I talked about earlier in the show. They have the need at edge, corner, wide receiver, and then offensive tackle. And because they lost both of their starting corners, I have them taking two corners in this particular mock draft. I have this one. This one I have, he's got a brother in the National Football League already. He's going to go Avion Terrell, the corner out of Clemson. He has the lineage there. His brother is AJ Terrell, plays for the Atlanta Falcons. Pretty good corner there for him. But yeah, he's 5'11", 180 pounds. Elite football IQ, playmaking instincts, should make him a day one starter. And if you're the Kansas City Chiefs and you lose both your starting corners, you need to roll the dice on two corners, and maybe one of them becomes a shutdown guy. I think you got to take that shot. From there, we got the Miami Dolphins on the clock again, and this pick is coming over from the Denver Broncos as they traded Jalen Waddle a couple weeks ago, so now they're back on the clock. Wide receiver, corner, offensive tackle, edge, and offensive tackle are their major needs. And earlier on in this particular mock draft, I had them go with a tight end, kind of a surprising pick to many people, but I have this one. I have them going the traditional wide receiver. And I got to take Denzel Boston, the wide receiver out of Washington. He has the prototypical size, 6'4", 209 pounds, starting outside receiver that this team desperately needs, since both those guys are now gone, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And you kind of have an interesting combination there with Kenyon Sadiq, Denzel Boston, both of those wide receivers. And then you also have Darren Waller. And then you have some other, fringe wide receivers there as well on the roster. Tutu Atwell, who's kind of a flyer guy on the outside. But Denzel Boston should be a really nice piece for Malik Willis. I mean, you sign Malik Willis, you give him all this money. You got to give the guy a shot to be a productive quarterback. And if you're not going to surround him with any weapons, I don't know what we're doing here. From there, the Super Bowl runner-up New England Patriots are on the clock. Their major needs are edge, offensive tackle, wide receiver, linebacker, tight end, defensive line as well. But to a lesser extent, I think their biggest need is obviously a wide receiver. I'm not even sure who's on the roster right now, a wide receiver for the New England Patriots. But there isn't really anybody to take here. So I don't want to reach and just take someone just for the sake of taking someone. So I'm going to have them address their other major need. And I'm going to go to Texas and bring the guy from Texas up into the New England area. Cassius Howell ends up becoming a New England Patriots, 6'2", 445 pounds. Got great hand usage, burst, and pass rush arsenal. Should be a disruptive situational edge rusher, and the New England desperately need somebody like him to come in and be a productive player, because we kind of saw what happened to them in the Super Bowl, as they were really not able to get a ton of pressure under Sam Darnold in that Super Bowl. And then finally, the Super Bowl champions, Seattle Seahawks. This is a team that can absolutely they can absolutely just take best play available. But they do have some needs. I mean, corner, edge, running back, wide receiver. Running back is a major need for them. But I just didn't think there was a running back to take here at the very end of the first round. So I'm going to have them go to corner. We know Reek Wallen is no longer in the building. He's now a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm going to go down to Tennessee. We're going to be singing Rocky Top as we bring in Colton Hood for the Seattle Seahawks, 6 foot, 195 pounds. Probably he wouldn't need to start right away. So he gets the season to kind of, just kind of translate into the season. He's only been 1 year starter from the University of Tennessee, but his upside is really immense. So we'll look for seeing him go into the Seattle Seahawks as he can kind of develop behind, a Witherspoon. Who better to learn from than a guy who's going to be an all-pro for the foreseeable future for the Seattle Seahawks. And right there, my 2026 NFL mock draft. This is my happy birthday dad edition of the show. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us. If you were here for the entire show, I do appreciate that very, very much. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast if you like what we're doing here at Prime Sports World. And just a quick recap of the schedule for the remainder of the week. UFL recap show tomorrow. This week at WWE on Thursday. WrestleMania preview on Friday. So yeah, I mean, we're bringing you the content. We're going to keep pumping it out. This has been Prime Sports World. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. And we bring the heat. I'm David on Point Huffman. You all be safe out there and have a great weekend. Or, the rest of your day. Peace out. Peace out.